Welcome to this summer worship service at First Unitarian Society of Ithaca, a community that reaches for connection, digs deep for inspiration, and strives to engage with a complex and uncertain world. My name is Magdalene Lindenberg. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to everyone, whether you are newcomers or longtime attendees, members of the Ithaca community, or watching from afar. We are delighted you have chosen to worship with us. Once again, we gather while physically apart, rather than in the church parlor with its late summer hum of the fans, traffic on Buffalo Street, the church bursting with donations for the recycle sale. But a time will come when we will be there again. Be sure to check your email, our Facebook page, and our website for more information on how to create connections amidst this experience of physical distancing. If you'd like to receive weekly updates describing opportunities for engagement, please email a request to office@uithaca.org. Our service this morning has been pre-recorded, but Reverend Margaret and I will be joining coffee hour after the broadcast on Sunday, so you can share your reflections on themes, and you will also have the opportunity to share joy and sorrows at that time. We look forward to seeing you all. And now, a few words from Reverend Margaret.
I want to speak to the moment in which we find ourselves. This past week, 2 of our staff decided to resign from their positions. Vivi was our engagement and outreach coordinator, and Powers was our religious exploration assistant. Both decided it was time to resign. While I cannot speak to the specifics because it's a personnel issue, I can speak to the feelings in this moment. I can imagine that many of you are bewildered. I can imagine that you may be sad, or upset or angry. I can imagine that you may be wondering how we can move forward. What I can say is that I'm sorry we lost these people on our staff team. I wish that it wasn't the case. And now is a time that when we as a congregation have an opportunity to do some reflection about ourselves as a covenanted community and to explore the systems of racism and oppression that live within this community. This will be difficult and intentional work, and it is necessary and important. So take a deep breath. We will have a chance to connect about this at 12:30 this afternoon on Zoom, where the board, our UUA regional staff, Renee Rahutsky, and I will host a peace circle. The Zoom info could be found in the week's announced email that went out this past Wednesday. We hope to see you there.
Our opening words are taken from Spilling the Light, Meditations on Hope and Resilience by Teresa Soto, Senior Minister of First Unitarian Church of Oakland, California. In this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath, the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star and to the truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmer of an indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream, and by covenant and the movement forward of one right action and the next, we know that one day we will arrive at home. Let us say our chalice lighting words together. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. Please join me now in singing hymn 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from grief to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from grief to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
There is so much to hold. The fear, the worry of the pandemic, returning to school or work, finding a way to work and school and do everything from home, finding a way to continue on with hope and with courage. The fires are burning in California. Black and brown people are continuing to die at the hands of the police and because of systems of oppression that were woven into the fabric of this country and our communities. We are rising up again and again to proclaim that Black Lives Matter and to keep showing up to the important work of dismantling racism and bias in ourselves and our institutions. People are dying. Our children are scared. There is so much loss. Holding all of this in our hearts, I want to share a poem that I have returned to again and again. I've shared it with you all before, and I hope that it speaks to you in this moment. The Facts of Life by Padraig Ó Tuama. The facts of life, that you were born and you will die, that you will sometimes love enough and sometimes not, that you will lie if only to yourself, that you will get tired, that you will learn most from the situations you did not choose, that there will be some things that move you more than you can say, that you will live, that you must be loved, that you will avoid questions most urgently in need of your attention, that you began as the fusion of a sperm and egg of two people who were once strangers and may well still be, that life isn't fair, that sometimes life is good and sometimes better than good, and that life is often not so good, that life is real, and if you can survive it, well, survive it well, with love and art and meaning given where meaning's scarce, that you will learn to live with regret, that you will learn to live with respect, that the structures that constrict you may not be permanently constricting, that you will probably be okay, that you must accept change before you die, but you will die anyway. So you might as well live, and you might as well love. You might as well love. You might as well love. So may it be. Amen, and blessed be. Each week we take an offering to support and sustain the ministries of this congregation and its work in our community and our world. And with gratitude, this morning's offering will be gratefully given and received. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond. Our reading this morning is a poem by John Mercer called Preparing for a Hike. Consider the season. In the spring, pack sandals for water crossings. In the fall, a space blanket for the unplanned night out. Consider the route. Imagine your way through the good route and also the other route, that less preferred, the one you'll need when the first proves impassable. Consider what to carry in your head. Don't listen to sappy music before setting off. The sappier the music, the more you'll resent your own brain. Don't worry about what to do with your head. Your head won't work after some hours on the trail. Consider what you'll pass through. Know your trees, your ferns, your mushrooms. Know your wildflowers, both garish and shy. Know the birds by their calls and distinguish the chickadee from the white-throat sparrow. Mind the oven bird. Take joy in the winter wren, your most tireless companion. And be ready with the first step to give up control and let the journey unfold on its own, as it most certainly will. Let its accidents become opportunities. Let its challenges become triumphs. Let it enter your heart and inhabit you. Let it sanctify you. Let you and the journey and nature be one, as you most certainly are. Preparing for a hike. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The Serenity Prayer. It's attributed to Reinhold Niebuhr. It emerged in the late 1930s in the face of a rapidly changing society. It was adopted by Alcoholics Anonymous, and many of us may be familiar with it because of that association. This simple prayer is based on a profound principle, and I find myself returning to it in moments when I need centering. I invite you this morning to focus on that profound principle, the opening to deeper inner reflection and peace, the journey inward. This is a prayer written by a Christian theologian, though it could begin with God of our many understandings, or Spirit of love, or my complicated human mind. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. 3 steps on the inward journey of finding serenity. The first, to accept the things I cannot change. There are many things we cannot change, many more than we'd like to admit. In the late 1930s, when this prayer was written, not so different from today, society faced economic hardships, technological advances, political tension abroad and at home, and changing roles for members of society, including immigrants and women. Today, we're affected by similar things. We read about them, we worry about them, we experience them. Sometimes we lose sleep over them. The rising tensions in our country over generations of racial oppression, voter suppression, the upcoming election, they all make our stress levels rise. And just like people did in the 1930s, we lose sleep over these things and many more. Add a worldwide pandemic, and we have additional compounding stressors. Amidst this COVID time, I worry about my family, my sister, my brother-in-law, my niece and nephew who are returning to school amidst a pandemic, my parents' health, my own health issues, the list goes on. So little of this is under my control. So many of us have this shared experience of worry and concern. Many writers, philosophers, religious traditions have explored this idea of shared human experience and helped us try to understand how to face our lack of control of these aspects of being human. They invite us to acknowledge our complicated human makeup. We share a common capacity to love and to hate, a capacity to get sick, a capacity to think and to learn, but we can't control all of these things. I found a helpful framework by David Richo, who suggests that there are 5 main things we cannot change in our lives. And he ultimately contends that if we can, as the Serenity Prayer suggests, accept that we cannot change these things, we will be happier and more fulfilled. These 5 certain facts of life that are part of human existence are: 1, that everything changes and ends. 2, things do not always go to plan. 3, life is not always fair. 4, pain is part of life. And 5, people are not loving and loyal all of the time. These are not groundbreaking revelations. They are simple facts of our human experience, and still we struggle to accept them. Just as we reflected in our meditation, these are some of the facts of life. These are the ways we prepare for our life's journey and prepare for the hike ahead. In Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths ultimately challenge us to let go of the things we cannot change. This core of Buddhism starts with accepting that the basic human experience is suffering, which is caused by the cycles of life, birth, aging, death, all the physical and psychological makeup of those experiences. We can't change this experience, but in Buddhism, we can be free of it. When we're able to acknowledge the suffering, we can then follow the Eightfold Path, a path of self-improvement, which might extend over many lifetimes until enlightenment is achieved. Now, in the Jewish and Christian tradition, we hear in Proverbs, "In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." For many in these traditions, there is a belief that God has a divine plan. We should trust in the mystery, trust that those things beyond our control are under God's control. But even when God has a plan, most Jewish and Christian folks today believe in free will and separate human choices, or things we can change, from God's plan, things we can't control, like other people, natural disasters, death. In all these practices, accepting what we cannot change requires honest reflection. However we find freedom from the things we cannot change, it is an important spiritual practice. So I invite you now to enter into a time of silent reflection about a time when you faced something you could not change, or something you're facing now. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The second step in finding serenity, knowing there are things we can change. It does indeed take courage to acknowledge them, and sometimes it takes a lot of work to actually change them. Some changes are a little easier than others, or at least to try. Sometimes it doesn't take much action or movement or even speech. The change might be something like intentionally smiling at someone today, taking just a second to be thankful for their presence in your life. It may be holding back a snarky comment or driving the speed limit. There are other changes, however, that are not as easy to approach. Changes we should make because they're unhealthy for ourselves or for others, like our thoughts or our actions, our situations. It takes bravery to leave our homes when we know we're no longer safe there. It takes a lot of guts to admit a relationship or a marriage isn't working, but we can say goodbye. It takes valor sometimes to be kind to people we don't know or understand, or who believe things that are different than our beliefs. But we can practice honesty and kindness and forgiveness. And it requires as much courage as humility to look inward to the places where we were not our best self, the places in need of change and of growth. I admit it's easy to talk about change and maybe even easy to imagine it. Our culture is so focused on a quick fix, instant results, that we often jump into new beginnings, ready for an instantaneous change. We have laser surgery, we take a pill to change almost anything, 10-minute makeovers, all with money back guarantees. Most of the time, however, we're not prepared to change. This complicated human body we've got doesn't always respond well physically, mentally, or emotionally. So even as we gain the courage to acknowledge the things we can change, we must also be ready for gradual results. Change is a process, and it is in the transition that the meaning is made. William Bridges names 3 phases of transitions: endings of the old way, the neutral zone, which is time of self-renewal, and finally the new beginning, which is the point we emerge renewed. The lessons in the phases of transition are powerful, especially about the courage to face endings and the in-between time. Endings, he says, should not be feared or seen as nevermore. As we explored earlier, the first of the basic 5 things in life that we cannot change is that everything changes and ends. We can't change it. So instead, we must acknowledge and engage the process of ending and of loss. Whether it's a job, a relationship, a lifestyle, a bad habit, it can feel confusing and disorienting. It can feel contented or sad or just about anything. So our challenge is to accept that we will simply feel different than we do now, and not to expect a right way to do it. In the neutral zone, we're warned not to fear the emptiness. Grant me courage, we pray. It is in this time that we can instead revel in the questioning, the uncertainty, play the muddy waters, give ourselves a little time to get our feet wet, and respect the time and space of transitioning. Being in this transitional space is important. It allows us to participate more fully in life. It allows us to slow down long enough to imagine the possibilities. Changing the things we can takes courage and humility. And so there is no clear time to start that third and last stage of that new beginning. I invite you again into a time of reflection on a time that you face something you could change, or something you're facing now that you can change. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The third step in journeying toward and finding serenity may be the hardest. Gaining the wisdom to know the difference between the things we can and cannot change. We often say we learn with experience, with age and mistakes, and it's all true. We do learn about ourselves and the world and other people, but we don't automatically become wise. Wisdom suggests we might do something differently in the future. That, for example, we've learned from our mistakes and will not repeat them. That is the kind of wisdom we hope for, the kind of wisdom that can help us find serenity. This morning, we've pondered some of the things we can and cannot change. Things we cannot change include technology, our past, other people's actions, behaviors, situations, and choices. Things we can change include our understanding, our future, and our own actions, behaviors, situations, and choices. Expanding your own list is a step towards gaining the wisdom and the insight. You might try actually writing a list for yourself. Wisdom is inside each of us. It is in our motivations and our reactions when we allow ourselves to try and understand those things. Some people might find this understanding through journaling, writing deeply and honestly about thoughts and anxieties, our assumptions, our considerations. We can then also reread our old writings and see what stories seem to repeat themselves. Ask, why might that be? And some people find it more helpful to do this kind of reflection with others, to gain that wisdom and insight in partnership. Many people have great success in individual therapy or support groups or with a spiritual director. Change is inevitable. When we find ourselves anxious or upset about something happening in our lives, it's important to notice and make space for those feelings, and then to pause for a moment. It often feels easier to push through or ignore those feelings, but remember, we must honor the transition as that time in which we need to sort out the change. That is where we find the wisdom on the other side of the confusion and the unknown. We can ask tough and honest questions of ourselves and others, like, what am I responsible for, and what is the limit of that responsibility? Let's pause again together. What might help you gain wisdom in knowing the difference between what you can and cannot change? Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. I invite you to continue to enter into centering moments of reflection, continuing to hope for the wisdom to know the difference between what we can and cannot change. There are simple facts of human experience that bring us both pain and joy that we must accept as beyond our control. We can only hope to control ourselves and our reactions as we face this journey of life. Ultimately, from simple changes like smiles and honest conversations, work on ourselves, to displaying love and compassion in the face of our enemies and difficult changes, there are things we can change, that we can control. And having the courage to change them will impact our lives and the lives of those around us beyond measure. May we have the courage to do so. So may it be. Amen, and blessed be.
We extinguish this chalice, but not the hope, love, and courage that it represents. We carry our love and our courage out into this beautiful and broken world. Our service is now ended. Let our true service now begin.